Get ready for a story about 20 motorcycle riders riding around in the dead of winter from all over the country to meet up in the woods for a motorcycle rally that had nothing to do with motorcycles. Find out how crazy these people are and why they came here. I'm going to tell you this story in small bite-sized pieces that are easy to swallow. This whole story started several weeks back during my fall motorcycle adventure and journey to the rally out in Oklahoma. And I met a few people, interesting people on motorcycles that like to travel a lot. This guy in particular, Gary, wound up riding with me through Texas. We also found out about a hammock event coming up in the middle of January in Central Florida. And we had actually made plans back then to journey to this event on motorcycles. So 4 other riders showed up on a cold Wednesday morning for the first leg of our journey south into Florida. I gave a short safety and ride briefing so everyone knew what to expect on this 5+ hour ride. Getting to know everyone's needs, styles, and individual range is an essential part of group rides, so we were all learning as we rode together the first day. Making sure we communicated well and nobody was riding beyond their comfort level helps reduce disasters. As long as, y'all realize I'm not turning without the guy behind me, hopefully, so you guys know, if y'all turn and your guy's not behind you, you're responsible for your guy. You're responsible for not hitting the guy in front of you. That's pretty much all I got. No wheelies in the freaking crowd.
No, that's about the only one I mind doing with it.
Yeah, I tried. This one won't do it.
This one won't do it. I'm not going to.
So with that, we loaded up and rolled south for a 5-hour ride in the cold down to the panhandle of Florida to overnight in the swamps with the alligators. But first, a stop in Selma to discover some old grave sites.
Vice President of the United States.
Yeah.
That's not what's special about him.
He's also dead.
He's also what?
Dead?
Tell you the story the way I read it from my Alabama oddities. He was the only Alabamian ever to be Vice President of the United States. That's a pretty good accomplishment. He also was about as flaming a queen as the 1840s would allow.
Sweet. My kind of VP.
He made Oscar Wilde in full flower look like Ernest Borgnine.
That's pretty good.
These guys are being kind. I've read some other stuff. It's like, whoa, this guy's...
Yeah, so he's out there then.
Yeah. Aunt Fancy. That's what...
Aunt Fancy.
That's what Andrew Jackson called him. Aunt Fancy. Him and
Nervous lad.
President Buchanan had a thing. So they were boyfriend and boyfriend, or girlfriend and boyfriend, whatever. Yeah, they've got Buchanan's letters. Mr. King burned all his stuff. He had all his relatives, and Buchanan did the same thing. They didn't want anybody to know there was some funny stuff going on. So both of them, their families burned all their letters. So, but yeah, beyond that, he died. I think it was like 21 days after he was sworn in. He went to Cuba because he was getting treated for TB, right? And he got elected while he was in Cuba. He was sworn in Cuba and never made it back to the States. So, the first Alabamian, shortest term in office, flaming, probably the first,
So he would have never actually have sat over the Senate as a vice president.
He was sworn in,
I mean,
but
over the
yeah,
House,
you actually got to be present to do anything, right?
Now the vice president is the tiebreaker for the
Right, yeah,
House
so,
and
yeah,
Senate,
but I
yeah.
mean, you can't vote remotely, as far as I
That's
know.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyway. Like I thought it was a really interesting story.
See, I thought 44 was our first gay president.
Who knows? Well, you know, who knows who's in the closet, but this guy apparently didn't try to hide it. You know? I just thought that was kind of interesting.
I mean, especially back in those days. I mean,
Aunt Fancy.
Aunt Fancy.
Aunt Fancy. Andrew Jackson called. Yeah, I read a bunch of other stuff that was just brutal. It's like, how is this guy? Huh?
Because I found my new screen name. Aunt Fancy.
Aunt Fancy.
That's awesome. That's funny. I didn't know that. Never heard the guy. Actually.
I've never heard of this guy.
It's an interesting story.
And apparently he's like a big gay icon too. So,
Yeah.
you know, he's like, ooh, yeah, it's for, you know, I can just imagine this guy. Okay, everybody.
I've got a friend that lives in Tacoma who's of that persuasion. I'm going to ask him if he's ever heard of.
Yeah,
William
I mean,
Rufus.
to me, that's pretty impressive. They named Seattle, Washington, that area
King
is
County.
King County. It's named after him until the 90s when somebody said, well, we don't really know who King is. Let's name it after Martin Luther King. So now it's named after Martin Luther King. The county that's been around for 200 years.
Yeah,
now-
suddenly
Yeah.
they reached. Okay.
Yeah. No, anyway.
It's probably because they found out the truth about Rufus.
Aunt Fancy, you mean?
Yeah, Aunt Fancy. I could just see Andrew Jackson. It's just
Oh, yeah.
as redneck
Oh,
as
so much. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
All right, well, that's all I got. I just wanted to, I kind of like to make stops like this. So after leaving Selma, we continued south towards the panhandle of Florida to overnight next to a lake and a river full of alligators, only to get up in the next morning to continue our journey. It was cold, very cold, both mornings, and barely warmed up during the day. We also noticed that we were the only motorcycles on the road. Very occasionally you might see one rider, but nobody rides this time of year, even in South Alabama and Florida. It's just not seen. So we continued south, 5 riders, soon to join around 15 other riders, in a place that had nothing to do with motorcycles. I would say we were going to be all by ourselves, but it was a very interesting rally full of interesting people, not just on motorcycles, but people camping differently, people looking into other ways of camping and living in the world outside of a tent. But that's next time. Lots of more stories to come. I hope you have hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get those notifications when I produce the next videos. That way you stay on top of it. It's going to get real confusing real quick. See you next time.